In Kansas, 72% of fourth graders can't read at grade level. But what if the problem isn't the kids? It's the system that taught them. I'm Jesica Glover, and this is My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis, a documentary-style podcast about how thousands of smart, capable children are being left behind and what parents and teachers are doing about it. In this season, we trace the forgotten history of reading instruction, hear from families who were told to wait it out, and uncover how widely used methods fail to teach the most foundational skill in education. You'll meet teachers who were taught but not trained, and students who were mislabeled, misdiagnosed, and nearly gave up. But there's hope, and it's already happening in Kansas classrooms. This is a story about loss, about learning, and about what happens when people refuse to give up on kids who struggle to learn to read right now. We've come a long way this season, from parents wondering, why can't my child read, to uncovering the deep history of failed reading approaches in Kansas schools. We've seen the heartbreak, the missteps, and the resilience. But we've also seen something else, the beginning of change. And that's where hope lives. One of the clearest examples of what's possible is Phillips Fundamental Learning Center in Wichita. For over 2 decades, they've been transforming lives, training teachers in structured literacy, and helping children who were once left behind finally learn to read. Today, we're hearing from Tammi Hope, Director of Program Development at Phillips Fundamental Learning Center, where she has spent years transforming not just children's literacy skills, but the hearts and minds of educators across Kansas. Her story reminds us that with the right tools, knowledge, and belief in children, hope is possible. And literacy can be a gateway to confidence, curiosity, and a lifelong love of learning. The heartbeat of hope. So we're going to fast forward to today, Tammi. Now you're the Director of Program Development at the place that helped your family. What led you to say yes to joining the team and eventually stepping into such a meaningful leadership role? I know that's kind of big,
but it's been a long journey. My son, who I originally took the training to serve, he's now 25.
Okay.
And he was 8.5 back then. So it's been a long time. It's been a long journey. So first of all, I came on board after the school was started. So the school initiated in 2014. I came on board in the spring of 2016 as a part-time teacher. I was teaching literacy at that time. And then of course, I had a passion for these kids. Yeah. And so I was still doing my private practice and then working here as well. So I began to really fall in love with the program because the program really aligned with my pedagogy. And so I got really excited about it. And then one of the really beautiful things about PFLC is that you are allowed a tremendous amount of autonomy. So, of course, you're brought on board, but if you're brought on board, they really trust you to do what they hired you to do, and they believe in you and invest in you. And so I knew that I wanted to help develop a program for our kids with regard to assistive technology, but I wanted to do it in a way that aligned with my pedagogy and the philosophy of our building, and not necessarily in the way that it was being done in other places. And so that's when I went back to get my master's degree in instructional technology, and then they blessed me to develop our assistive technology program here, which is it's really unique. It's really different than what you might think it would be, but it's been really, really great for our kids. And so that was a really enjoyable time. And then at the same time that I was working, so I would work in the school year, and then in the summer I would work in Andale Teacher Literacy Institute, and I would help train educators. Okay. So I worked year-round, school, and then with adult teachers, parents in the summer. And so as you build those hours, you start earning hours so that you can become something called a qualified instructor. So a certified academic language therapist is first, working with children, and then when you start training adults, you can build your hours to become a qualified instructor so that you can teach adults independently, unsupervised. Mm-hmm. And so I worked to do that, and then I earned my qualified instructor, and then that's when I was presented with this opportunity to go work in ATLI, mostly full-time. And so I have to be honest, it kind of brought both of my worlds together, that previous office manager stuff that I did with my love for learning and children. But it was a struggle because I really, really enjoy working with kids. And it's still hard today. If I do a lot of time and I don't come over to sub and I don't work with children, I really do have a struggle with that. But yeah. After my first summer, when I was only working over there, I got to really get to know amazing educators who had hearts for children, who really wanted to transform their buildings, and the understanding that, I can work with a handful of children here at the school, or I could train educators, and then children are reached exponentially because you can send so many more out to serve kids. Yeah. And when you're teaching in ATLI and you're teaching educators, you see the potential for change. You see the transformation of educators. You see their heart for teaching, like it's lit on fire again, because it's grueling for a lot of educators. The demands that are made upon them, and for a lot of time, I know it's changing now, they did not have the appropriate tools to teach children how to read. Mm-hmm. And for them to get the tools to teach children how to read, and then see the hope that they have, knowing that not only do I have these tools, but now I also have something that I'm going to add or change to my pedagogy so that I can do more than just teach them how to read. Now I can empower these children. I can help them learn who they are. I can help them understand their giftedness and their strengths while I'm teaching them how to read. Yeah. It's just a phenomenal thing to watch. And then we have an incredible mentoring program so that once they leave, there's somebody on our team who follows them to support them and to get the feedback. Oh my gosh, I did this, and within a couple of weeks, this thing changed, or this happened, or someone else in my building asked me a question, or right, it just starts to ripple in the water, and it just keeps growing.
That's so good. I'm over here going, yay!
That's what happened, and so I'm like super hyped about. Yeah, everybody who's going back out to their schools this fall.
I want to hear more about the light bulbs going off, because I know you've done at least 2 full 2-week trainings this summer. And I know there's been other little ones too, but are there any specific testimonies where teachers that had the light bulb go off on, I thought I was taught, now I get what I wasn't taught, and then I'm so excited to go back?
So many. Most of them come in knowing something, and there's enough information out there right now that you kind of have a general idea what structured literacy is, but it's really hard to get a really deep dive. And so when we think about educators, they get a lot of training thrown at them, and a lot of people have different philosophies, from social emotional learning to, right, just the gamut. And so they're in a lot of training. And so they get real skeptical about, am I really going to learn something? Am I going to take anything away that's of value? Mm-hmm. And so they come to us knowing a little bit about something. And so part of our program includes, we're not just going to tell you that this is what a child needs and how to do it. It's incredibly important that we give them the research and the rationale behind what we do before we tell you how to do it. Mm-hmm. And so they'll say, oh my gosh, I thought I kind of knew this. I had no idea why I was doing it. I had no idea what not to do. And now I understand. I know why I shouldn't be doing this and why I should be doing this at this time in this child's development. And it's that's the stuff that really kind of blows their mind a little bit when we like really dig into the research that they kind of know a little bit, but don't really understand how that transfers into application into their pedagogy. So, for example, there's a curricula that's used in early childhood, and it has some phonological or phonemic awareness practices in it. And a lot of our educators come in and they're familiar with it. But then we give them the research on the development of phonemic awareness, and then we give them the strategies that you use for struggling readers. And one of those strategies is do not mix multiple skills at the same time, because it confuses the phonological structures of a child's brain. You need to be working on one skill at a time, and you're going to work towards mastery. You can work on more than one over a period of time, but don't do it in the same day. Don't do it in the same setting. It just becomes a big mess. Not for children who are efficient readers, but it is very much so for the struggling reader or a student with profound dyslexia. And this last 2 weeks, the day that we spent a whole day on this, but that day there were 3 teachers in the room, and they said, "This is why my students can't do this," because this curricula mixes, and it's super, super fast. It mixes a whole bunch of different skills all at one time.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, that makes sense why these kids have struggled with this all year long. And we didn't know what to do. It makes so much sense now. So that's a really small thing, but those little small things happen the whole 2 weeks. Those little bitty pieces. So that was one, just this last 2 weeks, that was really powerful. Another one is the simulations. When we go through the simulations, and we do one on like a round robin reading, where they're having to read material that has a code that's different than our alphabetic principle that matches the sounds to the letters, right? It's a different code. And so we give them like a 30-second tutorial on the code, and then we ask them to jump in and start reading aloud. And by the time they're done, there will be some in tears. There'll be some who are kind of joking around and laughing, right? There'll be some who just sit and say, "I don't know the answer." And then we get done, and it's like a 5 to 7 minute exercise. And we get finished, and they'll say, "I was sweating when I knew you were getting ready to ask me to read. I was literally sweating in my seat." And I was like, "Why were you laughing?" And they were like, "Because I didn't know what to do with my nervous energy. And why did you tell me you didn't know? Why didn't you try to figure it out?" And they were like, "Because I couldn't figure out. I knew there's no way I was going to get it in time." And that's when they say, "I did it for 5 minutes. I have kids in my classroom who don't understand this code, and they have to do it all day." That's huge for them. Now I understand. Now I understand why they're in middle school and they're turning a desk over. Now I understand why they're cussing me out. Now I understand why they are shooting spit wads at the board and acting silly, so I can kick them out of my class so they don't have to be here when we're doing this. Like, all that stuff opens up because they had to experience it for 5 minutes. Like, that kind of thing happens every time. And invariably, towards the end of the first week of training, at least one teacher will just completely break down crying. And we have educators who have been in education upwards of 15, 20 years coming to training. We've had people who've been teaching for 30 years, and they're grieving the children who have passed through their classroom. And they'll literally say, "I see all the faces of the children who I couldn't help, all the kids who passed through my classroom, and I can only pray that they had someone who knew better than me after they left my room." And that's powerful, and it's powerful to know, now that I know, I'm going to go back and do something different, and every child who comes through my door is going to get something better. So every single time that happens. Or someone will say, "I think I have dyslexia and I didn't know it. This is why this thing was so hard for me. This is why it's so hard for me to remember the right word at the right time. I can read kind of good, but now all these other things that happened to me, now I understand. I think that's me too."
And I'm just thinking for our listeners too, like remembering that here at Phillips Fundamental Learning Center, we've got our free community classes where parents or teachers can come in and get the walk in their shoes dyslexia experience. Like you're explaining, like the round robin reading. There's several things that totally made me cry.
Yeah.
And then the Let's Talk Dyslexia with Janine Phillips, our founder. And then there's the advocacy, but just getting a chance to understand where the kids are coming from is the part that really grabs your heart.
It does.
Like, oh, this is why we need to help.
It does, because it's really easy, and no disrespect to any parent. I'll use myself as an example, to think that your child is being lazy, or because you know that your child is intelligent. You know that they're bright. They can sit at the table and, wax their knowledge about a myriad of subjects, and you know that they can have self-control when they're with you. And I didn't have the knowledge with my older two children that I had with my younger two. And so when my oldest son was in middle school, he really struggled, and we disciplined him so severely. He was a gifted soccer player, and we took away soccer because he was failing all of his classes. We were like, you're going to spend your time studying. You got to get it together, buddy. Like, we took away his privileges to play video games and spend time with his friends because he wasn't getting his grades together at school. But little did I know that it was beyond his control, and he was not being given the tools that he needed to be successful. And the other thing was that...
And you had no idea.
I had no idea. And when he was slightly different. I mean, his situation was slightly different, that he was hyperlexic, so he could read and had zero comprehension. So we knew, or we thought, he could do these things that he was not doing. And he had a great sense of humor. He was super charming. And so his teacher was like, yeah, he's pretty charismatic, but he's not getting his work done. He's not getting anything turned in.
Yeah.
And so we thought, stop being a clown. Quit being cute and get your work done. And it's really easy to fall into that trap. And then once you go through these simulations, then you realize, oh, and now I understand why this is so difficult for them. And not only do I understand why it's so difficult, I also understand why it's almost impossible for them to articulate their struggle. So for Caleb, at 8 years old, to be able to go up to a trusted family friend and say, I need help in school, is huge. And you will almost never see that happen. There's so much shame involved in it, like with not being successful. They feel stupid. There's no way that they're going to say, I'm having a really hard time with handwriting. I can't seem to get my hand to do what my brain wants to do. So that you have any idea that they might have dysgraphia. They just don't know how to articulate it. So without having that experience to help give your child the language of their struggle, it really will go unnoticed, and can go unnoticed for a very, very long time.
PFLC Philosophy and Future. Phillips isn't just a place, it's a movement. How would you describe what's happening here today and what it means for the future of literacy in Kansas?
I appreciate that you say a movement, because it really is the way things are done here. It really is a paradigm shift when we're talking about education. And I think how it impacts literacy it's really broad. There's some things that we need to do for students who have dyslexia or who have language learning difficulties. And what we know is that those things are good for all children. And I think one of the things that's really important to convey about what happens here is that, yes, it's about literacy, but it's about, and I hope I'm not overstepping, but what I've learned through here is that it's about leveraging literacy to empower and equip children to grow up to be whole and healthy and contributing adults. There's so much more than just the literacy piece. And the reason why I share this, and it's something I share with the educators who come to training, is that there are lots of great literacy programs out there. The one we use is very unique, and it's unique because it addresses the whole child through the structure of the through the structure of the lesson, through the language we use, through the way that we interact with children, even the things that we don't say. It is all intentional, and it's about making that child whole while they're gaining these literacy skills. And it's the reason why in our school, our kids have like exponentially more outdoor recess time than any other school, private or public traditional schools, because we know that whole child needs to be outside. They need to be in nature. They need to be using gross motor skills. It's why we don't have traditional playground equipment, because we want you to climb a tree. We want you to stomp around in nature. We want you to dig for the shark's teeth. That's what we want for you, because that is going to reset your brain so that you can come back and do the academic hard work that you need to do. But it's a different way to think about education and the arts. That's the other thing, that amount of time that our children spend in drama and music and the visual arts is considerably more. It's half of their school day here. And we do that intentionally because we know that we're teaching the whole child. It's not just about literacy. It's all of it. So that's where I see like the movement piece. It's why, I don't know if we've talked about, or you've heard somebody talk about the laboratory school. It's why there's so much glass in the hallways where we can see what's happening in the classroom. It's why when you're in the teacher education side of the building, you can see on a video camera what's happening in a literacy room, because we want you to see everything that's happening with these children and understand that it's not just about literacy. There really are good programs. There's some really great scripted programs where you just go through and you just read everything on there, and you're going to teach that child how to read. That will happen for that child. Fantastic. But the other pieces, understanding who I am, understanding how I advocate for myself, understanding when and where and why I should advocate for myself. And I can only do that if I know who I am and I know what my strengths are. And that doesn't happen with other programs, but it's very, very much rooted in what we do. We're grounded in it here. And I think that's the broader message, and it's good for struggling readers. It's great for everybody.
Yeah. So, Tammi, what keeps you going, or what still moves you year after year? You kind of shared a little bit, but...
Rick Lavoie, great, I believe, psychologist. He was the head of, I can't remember the school. It was a day school and a boarding school with kids with learning differences. He's done lectures, he's written books, he's amazing. But he did a video series in the 80s. And he's, like, the terminology he uses is not politically correct anymore, right? We don't call kids learning disabled anymore. And He uses those terms. But one of the things that he says, and I listen to this, I try to listen to it at least at the beginning of the school year. And when I taught, I listened to it once a quarter. It's just like a little 10-minute clip. And he talks about how it's a job of every parent or teacher to help build the self-esteem of children. And he said, your job is to give that child as much affirmation as you possibly can, take away as little as you can as a parent or a child, and be willing to go to bat for anybody who takes more than they give to your child. Like, that's your role. Yeah. And that just has stuck with me since I started teaching here. And that's the goal, is to affirm every child, take away as little as possible, and fight anybody who's going to try to take more than they give.
What is ATLI? Phillips Fundamental Learning Center's Andeal Teacher Literacy Institute, also known as ATLI, an acronym Tammi used in her interview, equips parents, teachers, and administrators to effectively teach all children, and particularly those with dyslexia, how to read, write, and spell. All of the courses offered by ATLI are based on the science of reading and include grammar case, the fundamental case, the sound case, and alphabetic phonics. Kansas teachers can even earn the Kansas State Department of Education Seal of Literacy through ATLI's Structured Literacy Intervention Specialist course. Courses are designed with evidence-based structured literacy instruction that enable teachers to teach the way the brain learns to read. In addition to ATLI, Phillips Fundamental Learning Center houses an assessment center and Rolfe Literacy Academy. Tammi's experience shows us the powerful impact equipping teachers with knowledge and tools grounded in research can have on children who might have struggled for years, suddenly having access to effective literacy instruction, and the confidence and curiosity that comes with it. She truly believes in the vision of Phillips Fundamental Learning Center and embodies this message herself in the work she does here, teaching teachers, supporting teachers, and working with students. And as Tammi says, the vision of PFLC is really simple, that every child has the right to read. It doesn't matter where they come from, what school district they're in, what resources their family has. Every child deserves that opportunity, and we want to make sure teachers have the tools and the knowledge to make that happen. Parent advice.
So many parents feel alone and powerless when their child can't read. What do you wish every parent knew when they first began their journey?
If I could go back, number one, you know your child. And at that first inkling that there's something wrong, act immediately. Don't wait. Get a second opinion when your kindergarten teacher says, oh, they're going to mature and it's going to get better in a few months. Seek out professionals. You're smarter than you think you are. You know more than you think you know, and you are the expert on your child. No one else can tell you that. And if you think your child can do and deserves better, chase it until you find it.
So, Tammi, you're also a grandparent now.
Mm-hmm.
Has that shaped your passion for your work in a new way?
Well, yeah. Because dyslexia is heritable, kind of been on my toes about that and just really watching what was going on with my two grandchildren. One is older. She'll be 14 next month. And we were watching her. Delightful, charming, from very, very young. Her memory is unbelievable for people in advance. So off to kindergarten she went. And at the first parent-teacher conference, the teacher was telling my daughter, she's a little immature. I mean, she's really struggling to, recognize all the letters and, but time is going to help her. But they really talked a lot about attention, about how, I have to tap, 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 tap on the table to get her to pay attention. And she is very relationship driven. And so when we expected her to come home from school and tell us about her teacher and her friends and what happened in the day, and she would come home from school and not have anything to say about her school day, which is just not like her. And after the conference, my daughter said, I know why we're not hearing anything. It's because she's miserable at school. And they said they think she's going to grow out of it. And I said, I don't think she's going to grow out of that without some kind of intervention. And so she came, immediately made an appointment, got in. It was a long weekend because of the conference. So she had some extra days, came in, made the appointment, got assessed. All the red flags were there. And I think it was the following Tuesday that she was enrolled and started at Rolfe Literacy Academy.
Wow.
And that, watching her go through this process blew my mind, because it wasn't even a week. There wasn't even a week that she was back telling us everything that was happening socially. She was telling us everything that she learned. In that 1 week of school, she learned landforms and was able to tell me the difference between a mountain, a valley, and a plateau. She was 5. She said she was looking at objects in the house and she said, rectangular prism. That's a rectangular prism. I learned that in math at 5.
This is amazing.
And she became just like a sponge for learning. And that's when I really realized that the difference in how you teach a child makes a difference in, one, how much they retain and learn, and whether or not they develop that love of learning and curiosity again. And that her whole journey, like, I can't even explain what a transformation that had been. And I think about, okay, if we would have left her in the classroom where they kept saying, she'll grow out of it. She'll grow out of it, and she's going to keep coming home from school with nothing to say about her day. Like, where would we have been? I just shudder to think to where she is now. So that completely, it really sold me on what a difference this philosophy makes. And one of the key things for that is in math, we have a phenomenal woman. She was an early childhood educator for the majority of her career, and she came on board with us. I know that I'm going to shortchange her philosophy and her pedagogy, but one of the things that I personally learned from her is to value and respect the child, their person, to value and respect their intelligence. And so, she's working with small children, but doesn't ever use baby talk with them. She just talks to them. Their ideas are very real and valuable, right? And they're meaningful and important to them at their age. And she treats them with that kind of value. Not like, oh, you're a little kid, but you're absolutely right. What a brilliant thought. Let's look into that more. That was also a shift for me. And then I will say this, my daughter as well. One of the things that she was always telling my granddaughter was, I know, she would tell her something like, it's so hard to be 7. I understand how hard it is to be 7. But my upbringing was, life is easy for you, just wait till you grow up, right? That's kind of what I experienced. But for her to validate that the struggles emotionally, socially, and academically are very real, and those are legitimate challenges for you, that also shifted my thinking when I'm working with my students. So some things we don't use sarcasm with our kids here. We don't belittle their struggles and challenges. We don't trivialize those things because they're very real and valid parts of their whole experience. So that, especially with my granddaughter, really, one, helped shape me more, but really put me in a position where I want to do whatever it takes to make sure that this place is here and present for other children and other families to experience, and other educators.
As we wrap up this episode, I want to take a moment to connect Tammi's story and the incredible work happening at Phillips Fundamental Learning Center to the bigger picture. Across Kansas and the U.S., far too many children struggle to read, and far too many parents and educators feel alone in that fight. But what Tammi has shown us is that with the right knowledge, tools, and support, change is possible. Change that transforms children's lives and reignites teachers' passion. Looking ahead to Season 2, you'll hear how educators are bringing instruction based on the science of reading into their classrooms and overcoming academic barriers to empower students to succeed. And for you, whether you're a parent, a teacher, or just someone who cares about literacy, there's something you can do today. Attend a Phillips Fundamental Learning Center free lecture or simulation to understand more about dyslexia and experience firsthand how it feels to be neurodiverse. We also invite you to sign up for our newsletter to stay informed about training, events, and advocacy opportunities. Classes are offered once a month and simulations every 2 months. You can RSVP by emailing jsmith@funlearn.org or calling 316-684-7323. That's 316-684-7323. And please find our contact info in the show notes. Choose from dyslexia, let's talk about it, a walk in their shoes, or let's talk ADHD. We recommend attending all 3 to best support the readers in your life. Every action matters, and every child deserves a champion.
Hi friends, I'm Ann with Phillips Fundamental Learning Center. If you're a Kansas educator who wants to transform how you teach reading, our Structured Literacy Intervention Specialist course is for you. We have multiple offerings that you can select from. Either our 2-week intensive course, which is offered either online or in person. Our next trainings are in October or June. Or we have a 16-week evening course that runs from January to May. And here's the best part. If you're a Kansas educator, we may have a scholarship available for you. I'd love to help talk you through the process. Just email me at achandler@funlearn.org or call 316-684-7323.
Thanks for listening to this Season 1 bonus episode of My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. Your support helps us continue sharing these stories, inspiring hope, and building a community where every child can read and every teacher has the tools to make that possible. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like, subscribe, and share with a parent, teacher, or friend who needs to hear this story. And stay tuned for Season 2, which will explore the science of reading in action across classrooms in Kansas. Thanks for listening to My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. If today's episode resonated with you, if you saw yourself, your child, or your classroom in these stories, you're not alone. We believe every child can learn to read, and every parent and teacher deserves the knowledge to help them. I invite you to take action today by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode, rate and review to help others find this series, and tell us about your story and discover how the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center is changing lives through literacy at funlearn.org/podcast. That's funlearn.org/podcast. And share this show with a friend, teacher, or fellow parent who needs to hear it. All resources, source credits, and tools mentioned in this episode can be found in the show notes. Remember, together we can rewrite the story one reader at a time right here in the Heartland.